Okay, hello everyone. Hello. I know it's one of the last sessions and energy is lower for 3 days, but I hope you will get really excited about the calendars workshop now. Let's go. Yeah. That's nice. Thank you so much. And I want to welcome Christine Tobias and Aaron Weller, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced the names. From Michigan State University Library, and you are going to show us and guide us through the calendar workshop. And Erin is with us online, and I will monitor the chat. So for everyone online, please go ahead. I will also monitor if anyone wants to raise their hand and ask questions. It should be an interactive workshop. Right, so please. All right, and without further ado, because we run a bit over time with the last workshop, that is why we set it up really quickly here. So I would say, proceed.
Actually, Erin is going to start, and then I will start around slide 5 or so.
Perfect. And Erin, you will just notify me if I should go for next slide, right?
Yes, please click to the next slide. Thank you.
All right. That was it's easier said than done, obviously.
And can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome. Christine and I are going to talk all about folio calendars. We're going to talk about, the definition, the purpose, and the permissions needed. And Christine's going to go into a lot of detail about how to create and edit and all things calendar. So when you leave here, you should really know all the things about folio calendar. Next slide, please. So what is a calendar? Why do we need them? The calendars are tied to the circulation rules. So the calendar is what sets the due dates for checked out materials. It is based on the service point. So for every service point you have, you need to set the hours of operation for that service point. You need to set the hours you're open, that you're closed, and then it does allow you to make exceptions. So this is just a peek at what one of the calendars looks like for our art library. You can see most of the days are open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., but on the 12th, you can see that they're closed. And then on the 21st and 22nd highlighted there, you can see that they have different hours. And you've got that little exclamation point within the circle that lets you know something's different. Unfortunately, right now, we're in Quiznalia. If you click on that little exclamation point, it doesn't do anything. So it would be nice in the future if you clicked on that, it went somewhere and you could look at that. But right now it doesn't, but it does alert you and let you know, hey, something's different here. Next slide. So these, again, we are in Quiznalia. So these are the permissions that are needed in order to interact with a calendar. These are all within the settings. So you can have view only. This permission allows users to view, but you cannot modify the calendar for any service point. The next one allows you to create and assign new calendars. So you can view the calendar, you can create a new one, and then you can assign it to service points. The third setting is can edit and reassign. So this allows you to view, edit existing, and then change those service points to change the calendars, change the service points to which the calendars are used. And then the final one is can delete existing calendars. So you can have any variety of those. I know for our circulation staff, the main staff just have the ability to view calendars, and then the head has the ability to edit the calendars. Next slide.
And this one is me, I believe. So yeah, so we advertise this as an interactive workshop, but I am a little bit scared of live demos. And since this is a short time frame that we're together, Aaron and I thought it would be best to just provide screenshots explaining all of the different steps, and then have you feel welcome to sign into your own folio tenant and play around as we talk, if you choose to do so. The slides have been uploaded to Sketch, so you can get it there later for reference. So what I'm gonna cover here for now, as far as managing folio calendars, like Aaron says, all things calendars. So we're gonna learn how to view, create, edit, duplicate, delete, and purge. Next slide. Okay, so to start with, to view a calendar, you're always going to be in the settings app, in the calendar section of the settings app. So once you're there, in the calendar pane on the left, you can see that you have the options for all calendars, and this will display all of the calendars in your folio tenant, even ones that have expired or have end dates in the past. And it also lets you know under the assignments column which service points are assigned to that calendar. You can also sort the calendar names alphabetically in the calendar name column. That is really helpful because if you have a ton of calendars, you know, rather than just going through a long list, you can just sort and find the one you need very quickly. And you see too that the columns start date, end date. So those are the appropriate dates for that calendar. Okay, next slide. So we're still on view a calendar. If you wanted to view just which calendars are currently active, you would go to the current calendar assignments option in the calendar pane. And then you see on the right, you can again alphabetize by service point. You see the calendar name, the start and end date for that calendar, and then the current status column shows you the operational hours that are set up in that calendar. So see, some are open, some are closed, open till midnight, open until 9, and that's the operational hours for this date. All of the start and end dates should be, well, not the start dates, but the end dates should be in the future. You will not, in the current calendar assignment, you should not be seeing any expired calendars. Okay, next slide. So we're still viewing a calendar. Aaron kind of explained this one already. You can select a service point to view its monthly calendar. And this is a good option for when you're setting up or changing the calendar. It's kind of a preview for the work you've done so far for that calendar. So each day, like Aaron explained, displays the service point hours, and it also displays the exceptions with that exclamation point in a red circle. And as Aaron mentioned, that is not a clickable thing. Hopefully it will be in the future. But for now, it just alerts you that something is different about that date. Next slide. Okay, so now the fun begins where we get to create calendars. So to create a new calendar, there are 2 ways you can do this. You can go to setting, in the settings calendar app, you can go to all calendars, or you can go settings calendar, current calendar assignments. And the options are a little bit different, but they're the same. So if you're in all calendars, you're going to click on the actions button and select new to create a new calendar. If you choose current calendar assignments, it just has a new button up in the upper right corner of that page, and you can click that to start your new calendar. Next slide. Okay, so we're just going to dissect the different parts of the new calendar. So the first section is general information, so that calendar name, its start date, its end date, and assignment of a service point or service points. The start and end dates should not overlap with any of your other calendars. The start and end date should be continuous between calendars to avoid gaps. And we'll talk about the message that you get when there's a gap in your coverage. Each calendar must have at least one service point assigned to it. And if you have more than one service point assigned to one calendar, that can only be done if the hours of operation of each service point are the same. Okay, next slide. Okay, the hours of operation section. So you can choose your open, under status, you can choose open or close. Open tends to be a day-by-day setting. So you can do the start day, which is the day of the week. The start time is when your service point opens. End day, end time, same thing. When does your, or day of week, and when does your service point close? So you will have several rows for open. Closed, you can do a single day or a range of dates. You just have to have the first day of the closing and the last day of the closing. And this example under exceptions, I have status closed, start date and end date are the same. So we're just closed that one day for, I think that's my birthday, so. Yeah. So, or you can have a range of dates, say your university is on a summer break or a break between semesters of a week or so. You just put in your range of dates, start date, end date. Do it that way as well. Okay, next slide. So we talked a little bit about exceptions, pretty much the same as adding your hours of operation. So exceptions will be times when your service point is closed. These are hours that differ from your normal service point operation hours. And they can be changed at a moment's notice. So let's say your library has a facilities emergency, like a fire or something, or you don't have enough staff to operate that service point for the entire time, you're going to close early. So those types of things would be an exception. So you simply just name the exception to add it, and then your open and closing times. Okay, next slide. So we created a calendar and now we need to edit it. So we go to, there are a couple ways to edit a calendar. You're always in settings calendar, but you can choose current calendar assignments and find the calendar by its service point, or you can go to all calendars and find the calendar by calendar name. And once you've found your calendar and selected it, the calendar will open in its own pane, and then you click the actions, edit, and select edit button to edit the calendar. Next slide. Okay, this is a view of the modal that pops up when you decide you're gonna do actions edit. So you see at the top, it says edit calendar to let you know what you're doing here. You can edit the calendar name, you can change start and or end dates. You can add or remove service point assignments. You can change your hours of operation, the status of your hours. You can delete a row of hours by just clicking on the trash can icon in the actions column for that particular row. And you can edit your exceptions, doing the same thing, changing the status, start date, end date, time, etc. And in each of these too, you can add rows of hours or add a row of exceptions to the calendar by clicking on add row. I think I covered all of that. Okay. Oops. No, you're good. You're good. Okay. So let's say we need a new calendar, but we need it to be a lot like one that we've already created. So we're going to duplicate it or copy it. So we go to the calendar that we want to duplicate. We go to actions, duplicate. And the new calendar, which is actually the duplicate calendar, a new modal opens up for that. So the duplicate displays in a new calendar modal, but pay attention because the calendar name is also duplicated. It doesn't say copy of calendar or duplicate of calendar. So if you're not careful, it can get really confusing. So the edits can be made to the hours of operation for the duplicated or new calendar in the hours of operation section.
Question.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Can the calendars have the same name or would it be?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think they.
Yeah, you forget to change the name. Can you say that?
I don't think it will let you save it. I adjusted that for sure. But I'm thinking you shouldn't have a duplicate name unless maybe your start and end dates are different.
You actually can, I've made this mistake before, I think you can save it and we'll save the same in another rule. And then you can just receive which one acts, so be really careful, because I actually think it lets you save it.
Oh, yeah, good to know.
Just for, that's above for feature action, I have a feature request, so just make sure you file it.
Okay. There may be one already, I don't know. Okay, so you can edit your hours of operation. And note, also be very careful with this. When you duplicate a calendar, it also duplicates your exceptions. And if you change the start or end date for the duplicated calendar, the exceptions, you will get a message saying, oh, these exceptions do not fall within the calendar date range. So then you'll have to go back and edit your exceptions. But just things to note that when it says duplicate, it duplicates everything. But you can change it after you duplicated it. Okay, next slide. This is the message I was telling you about. So we've changed the start and end date for our duplicated calendar. But we forgot to change our exception. And so you see this message, the exception is not fully enclosed by the calendar's start and end dates. So you just click out of that and you can change your exception dates and then you'll be on. Okay, next slide. Okay, now we are going to talk about deleting a calendar or calendars. So you can delete a single calendar. You just select it in your calendars pane. Under all calendar assignments, select the calendar. It opens in its own pane, like here on the left, for example, we have the law library summer hours, which is in the past, the end dates in the past, so we're gonna delete just this one. You just simply go to actions, delete, and then a modal appears, confirm deletion, just to kind of warn you, are you sure you want to delete this calendar? And if you're sure, you can hit delete and it's gone, or you can cancel and do additional editing if you wish. Okay, next slide. Okay, now purging the old calendar. So the calendar list can get a bit unwieldy. And you may find that you have calendars that are in there from a year, 2 years, 3 years ago. So if you want to delete the old calendars in bulk, or purge them, you go to the all calendars, settings calendar, all calendars, and under actions, you would click purge old calendars. And then the purge old calendars modal appears. And you have the options of selecting purge calendars that ended, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. You have those options. And then also, and were assigned, not assigned to any service points, or assigned or not assigned to any service points. So it's really, I think this is a good feature to kind of let you filter your old calendars to make sure you're purging the calendars that you want to purge and you're not purging what you don't want to purge. You can cancel to edit your selection. There is a preview of the calendars that you have selected before you delete them, so you can make sure. And then if that list is what you'd like it to be, click on the delete button and your calendars disappear. But be warned, this preview in the purge both calendars mode is your warning message. Once you click delete, they're gone. You don't get a warning, are you sure? It's just, you get this preview and you hit delete and then they're gone. So if you do an oops, well, it's an oops, you just, oops, they're gone. Okay, next slide. And I think this is Aaron.
Yep.
Okay.
So the next portion, I'm just going to talk a few slides about troubleshooting calendars. This is a common error message that you would receive if your dates have a gap in them. So you go to check out at your circulation desk and you scan the item. At checkout, boom, calendar timetable is absent for requested date. In the beginning, this really freaked out all the staff. What does this mean? We figured it out. There's a gap in our calendar. So it's an easy fix. You either go into your current calendar and you extend the date out on that service point, or maybe you need to create a new calendar depending on your library's workflow. So maybe your fall semester calendar has ended and you realize, whoops, we didn't create a spring semester calendar. So that's where whoever manages your calendars is going to go in and create that. So you're either extending fall or you're creating spring. So that's an easy fix, but just a warning, that's what that message means. Next slide. So calendars are tied to service points. If an item is housed in one service point, but checked out at another one, this can create unwanted due dates and potentially create late fees. I'm just going to give you an example. We experienced this in our library. We have an MSU makerspace and Make Central service points right next to each other. So, the staff are not the same, but they work together. So if it's often that Makerspace closes before Make Central, and Makerspace has all kinds of neat things to check out, including sewing machines and cameras and all these fun things that we want to give our patrons access to, even though that service point is closed. So Make Central staff will hop over, grab the item from Makerspace and check it out at Make Central. Yana, can you do the next slide, please? Thank you. So this can cause problems because let's just say this item is being checked out on a Wednesday. So Makerspace is closed at 8 p.m. And somebody, could you click one more time? Thanks. So somebody wants to check out a calendar from a camera from Makerspace. And so the Make Central staff runs over, grabs that camera. It's 9 p.m. So Make Central's open until 10. They check that camera out. Our cameras have a 3-day checkout. So the due date is Saturday. That's a problem because if you look over at the Makerspace calendar, they're closed. So this patron now has a camera that's due back on Saturday. They're supposed to return it to Makerspace because that's where the item is housed. If this item were checked out at Makerspace and the Saturday was closed, so let's say they checked it out at Makerspace at 7, the Makerspace calendar would bump that due date out to Monday. So you see the difference there? If it was at Makerspace, it realizes they're closed Saturday, so it bumps it out to Monday, but it was checked out at Make Central, and so they're open on Saturday. It's making the camera due on Saturday. So this can cause confusion to patrons, It can cause late fees because if the patron comes to Makerspace to return on Saturday, it's closed. Other units are trained not to check in material that doesn't belong there, so it could generate a fine, and it's not really good service to our patrons. Could you click the next slide? So there's a couple ways to fix. Please click. Do not allow the checkout, right? So this is one fix, an easy fix. Don't do this. Don't allow a checkout of the camera at Make Central. But we do try to, help our patrons as much as possible. So we've decided not to do that. Another way to fix this is you could modify the due date at checkout to match what it would be at the correct service point. So if Make Central knows that Makerspace is closed on Saturday and they check the camera out and it checks out to Saturday, they can just go into the action button in the checkout and click change due date, and they can modify that for the patron. One more click, please. Another fix would be to allow the employees to have access to all the service points, and then they can select the correct service point before checking the item out. So if Make Central students are going to be checking out Makerspace items, we could allow them to have access to the Makerspace service point. And so all they would have to do is in the upper right corner, I didn't do the whole screenshot because it was big, but this is going to be in the far right corner of your folio tenant. You can click the little blue rectangle there. Here it says MSU Makerspace. If you click that, you can switch service points, and then you can select the one that for the item that you want to check out. So this is just a warning. I don't know how many libraries do something like this, but it is something that we experience, that we've had patrons get fines and we don't really want them to. And of course we can waive those, but we just want to have really good business practice. So these are just some of the ways that you can mitigate that. Next slide. So you can not have overlapping calendars. If you get this error message here, service point MSU Makerspace has overlap. So it overlaps with another calendar. This just lets you know that you need to modify your start or end date depending on which way it overlaps. So this is as you're editing a calendar or you're creating a new one, you could get this message. You have to be very careful in setting your start and end dates so that they don't overlap with another calendar for that service point. It can, for another service point, the dates can overlap, but for this specific service point, you cannot have overlapping calendar dates. Next slide. And if you have overlapping calendars, you don't have to cancel as you're making the changes. There's a little workaround that we figured out. So you can just remove the service point from the calendar that you're editing, because you might have put a lot of work in there, right? You might have put in all the hours and a ton of exceptions, and you don't want to cancel it and start over. So you simply remove the service point. So you just click that little X on the Makerspace there, and you're going to save and close it. And then go into the calendar that's overlap. And then you're going to remove the service point there, save and close, go back into the calendar you're working on, add your service point back in, save and close. So it really can save you a lot of time using this workaround if you've spent a lot of time setting this calendar up to realize, oh shoot, it overlaps another calendar. Okay, next slide. So we suggest reviewing the Folio wiki for best practices and managing your calendars. On the wiki, it talks about settings that should be viewed periodically. You need to have calendars in the system for at least as far ahead in the future for your longest loan. So as an example, if your longest loan period is 6 months, you should have a calendar in the system that is more than 6 months in the future. As long as you continuously have that, you won't get that error message that I talked about in the beginning, that says there's not a calendar available at checkout. In practice, most libraries create calendars for at least a semester beyond their longest loan length, so they don't have to go in and change and add new hours constantly. I do know there's at MSU, we typically do it a semester beyond, but there are some calendars we have for tech services, for example, is the way we have it set up. It's a service point, but it's not physically a service point. It's not somewhere where anybody would go check material out. But for our functionality, we have it set as a service point, and we have that set out so far in the future. I think it's like 2048 or something like that. It's set really, really far out, just so we never encounter that message, that error message, and that staff doesn't have to worry about setting a calendar because they're not checking out to patrons. It's more internal checking out so we can track items that they're working on. Next slide. So another good practice we believe for managing calendars is to create templates. We create templates for each service point. So we have one for fall semester, spring semester, summer, and breaks. When a new calendar is needed for any given semester or break, we simply duplicate the template, as Christine showed you how to duplicate. We just duplicate that template for the semester and then go into our academic calendar and adjust the dates. So it might be, just a day or two off that we open different hours at the beginning of a spring semester than we did last year. So we just use that template as a guide, but it's been a really good tool. It's beneficial, and it really does avoid having to start from scratch because we're going to have the same breaks, right? We're going to, in the US, we're going to have a break for 4th of July. We're going to have Labor Day, Memorial Day. All of our holidays are going to fall right around the same time. So it's really easy to just go in and modify that calendar based on the holidays that are already there in the template. You can just see as an example here, we have listed the service points, and then right next to it is template. We know we're not going to tweak these at all. These are the ones that we're just going to duplicate. Okay, next slide. And then I say Christine did this. This is Christine's baby. We have a cheat sheet at MSU that is an Excel spreadsheet, and it lists the service point, it lists the calendar name, and then it lists the date range. And I just think this is a really fantastic way to manage your calendars outside of the folio tenant, because you can see that there are no gaps. You can see right there, one day ends on 9/1, then we have 9/2 is the very next calendar. That one ends on 12/13 and it picks up on 12/14, the very next calendar. So it's a really good way to ensure that you don't have those gaps and that we're not going to see that error message. Next slide. And that kind of wraps everything up as far as what we are presenting. But as Christine said, this is meant to be a workshop. So if folks want to play around with their settings in their calendar, we're happy to answer any questions as you're doing so or anything else.
We have one question. Catherine.
So we are one of those libraries with a ton of calendars, and because our billing hours just changed. In addition to the regular fall, summer, winter quarter, we have intersessions, which means in between those regular semesters or quarters, we have different billing hours. So we have winter this long, and right now we have this really massive list of calendars, and we're afraid to delete calendars. Does deleting affect loads? Like if you still have open loads, does it do anything to those loads?
Erin, did you hear that question?
I'm sorry, no, it's really hard for me to hear the audience. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't have a mic in here other than this owl in front. So basically the question is, if you have a calendar that also has like an intercession time period in that calendar, and your calendars just become really messy and you decide to delete a calendar, but there are things checked out based on that calendar. If you delete a calendar, does it affect the loan, like the checkout date of the loan?
If an item's already checked out, does it impact it? Is that what the question is then? Yeah, no, I don't believe so. Sorry, I don't believe so because it holds on to, the way Folio works is it holds on to whatever happens at the moment of checkout. So, you know, if you change a circ rule after checkout, it's not going to impact it. I believe if you, same thing for calendar, if you modify a calendar after, it's not going to impact it because it holds on to whatever it was at that moment. So if the due date was, you know, Saturday, and then we go in and change the calendar and make Saturday closed, it's still going to hold that due date. I believe the way that Folio normally functions is it holds on to whatever happened at checkout.
Yeah, what you couldn't see, Aaron, and you also, Catherine, Tom nodded in the back there. So,
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome. That's 100% correct. Once something is checked out, everything is frozen in time, including the there's a policy, the due date, everything.
Okay,
So-
and the user will get billed, let's say I'm deleting our oldest calendar.
Yeah.
So when the user has to return, the user will still get billed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do this thing at Cornell where we don't want items to fall due during the winter intercession because many people aren't on time.
That's right.
So we go in and when we're creating the calendars, you know, as far as our last loan or our longest loan, we create like an exception that we're closed on days that we're actually open. But we can create a calendar to do that, and then right before we go and delete that exception, but then all those due dates that have been generated based on that exception still follow.
Okay, now it's better.
Yeah.
We want to be told
I know.
Oh, fear of breaking something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Put the downside of it too, because with the circulation policy side of it is that if you go in and let's say you have one time fee policy set up, and then you go in and change it, let's say you want to increase your fees or your replacement cost, anything that's checked out will not get that new policy.
Right.
It will only be things to. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so for our remote audience, the answer to that question was that when something is checked out, it is frozen in time. So if you change something on the back end, whether it's your circulation rules or you change a calendar, a current calendar, that does not have an effect on the patron's due date of that checked out item. So bills, etc., will still continue to work as they should.
I tried to write down notes again, so I'm not rude, I hope, on my phone.
You can always ask me for a speech.
For no?
I don't know if you have a question.
The questions can always go into the RAC
Yes.
Slack channel. Yeah, like I say, just in case it can be, just in case we want it to be heard by the people online.
Very loudly. But I see that mostly people from our RAC are attending online, so they already. Right?
We didn't play no how.
I will stop the sharing and I'll share the screen. Any other questions? Oh, I see that there's something in chat. Oh. No?
I think that was just me saying, I can't hear the audience, help.
Sorry, I just saw a notification. Was anything in the room? Horror stories you want to share about calendars?
Someone needs to play in one part of vacation.
Maybe again.
It's all where it gets to play in for a vacation.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Okay.
I have a question. You're gonna have experiences with this. Could there be other implications rather than due date that could be a problem? If something's not functioning with one of your calendars, is that the major problem with the due dates?
So Erin, the question is are due dates the major problem that can occur from a calendar having some kind of wrong setting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we do experience, so just another example with our Makerspace or Make Central, right? So they have very, very different hours than our main library. Our main library is open 24 hours, 5 days a week. So there will be instances where the staff will call down to me or Christine and say, the due date is wrong on this. So maybe it's not, maybe you're not getting an error message saying there's no calendar available, but it might not be the right due date for what, is expected. And so that's where you may get, like I said, not an error message, but your staff notices something wrong. Like, hey, wait a minute, this is not checking out the correct number of days. And that is also a calendar issue. The very first thing I do when I get that call is go look at their calendar. And then I realize, shoot, there is, some little error here. Let me tweak that. We manage a lot of calendars. We are human. We do make mistakes. So that's where, I think that spreadsheet that Christine created recently is really going to help us out in managing our calendars. And I think naming your calendars is we didn't really talk about that, but I think it's really important that you consider what you name your calendar if you're going to have a lot like we do. And we were very specific, and not so much in the beginning, but we learned, each service point and then label them, right? Fall 2024, be specific because we have fall 2025 in there. But fall, spring, summer, and when we say breaks, we're closed a chunk over the holiday season from, like the Christmas and New Year holiday season. So that we just call like a break in there. But also we have these little chunks of time between semesters, right? So we might have, and we call them break weeks. So before fall starts, fall semester, there's 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the academic calendar that year, of time that is, not really a semester. It's a break. So summer session is ended, fall has not yet begun. So we have to account for that in our calendar because usually the library, instead of being open 24/5, we would be open 8 to 5 because there's not a lot of students around because they're taking a break. They're not here for classes. So, so then we have our breaks in there as well. So yeah, it's really important to name your calendars things that are going to make sense when you go to look at them again in 6 months.
So we have 5 minutes left on our session, and we have one question from Cornelia. So Cornelia,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm still asking myself, what would be the most efficient way to handle calendars when you have a range of service points and have the same exception dates for all of them, like public holidays. So as I understood, Erin, what you do is have a template for each service point and then edit each of those exceptions and public holidays individually.
Yeah, unfortunately. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. I mean, would it possible to do it the other way around, like having one template with all the holidays included and then duplicate it for each service point? What does the audience think? Others in the room, maybe? Or why did you decide on doing it this way around?
Well, I can answer the first question you had. So once I wrapped my head around these calendars with Aaron's help, I realized that you can assign more than one service point to a calendar. So some of our branches and units in public services have the same hours during break week, like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And so I did create one calendar that was, winter break, start, end date, exceptions, a 9 to 5 calendar basically. And I added all of the relevant service points. So say our library, music library, digital scholarship lab, maybe even business library. They all have been assigned that calendar. So I've done that instead of creating separate or duplicating a calendar 4 times and assigning it to one service point. So as much as I can, I try to assign more than one service point to a calendar if they have the same hours. They have to have the same hours.
So speaking to your exception, Cornelia, I think Christine did a little bit there, but circulation at our library, even during our holidays, is different than the rest of the service points. So there are a lot of times where all the other service points will be closed and Circ is still open. And so we can't create that exception and apply it to all, but what Christine is saying, she did that for our branches that do all close at the same time. So we do that a little bit, but there are instances, let's just say we have a holiday called Labor Day and we have Labor Day weekend. Well, the university or the library has decided that the building will be open. So that means circulation will be open because Circ staff keeps the building open, right? But every other branch inside can be closed. So basically it's like the building's open. But yeah, so we can't apply that exception to all, but we did what Christine said. She creates an exception and does apply that to all that it can be applied to.
And also for home football game days. Oh, yeah, our building is open, but only circulation and maybe the second floor.
Yeah,
and all our service points in the building are closed. And I think our business library is closed on those days too.
Okay, we are reaching 20 after time and we will be.
Toby has
One last question. So Cornell used to post all their academic, like the future academic years, like a few years out. So we would, since we have long periods that go up to a year. So that was very convenient because then you could look ahead when you were creating your new calendars and make sure that you were lining everything up correctly. I mean, we know like the rhythm of the semester, right? When breaks are and everything, but it kind of stopped doing that. So like, because they recently altered the academic calendar. So I think like the future one is like 25, 26 academic year, and they only have fall 2025. So I have no calendars, for spring 2026 because they haven't. Does anyone else having this issue where your university is not releasing calendars? And you can sort of guess, to the best of your ability, what that's going to look like based on previous years. And then you have to like remember to go back in and check that the new calendars are released and updated. If no one else is like nodding that they have this problem, so
well, we kind of do because we've had several new deans. We've had a lot of turnover with our admin. So it's not really the academic calendar that switched so much, but like deans working with the provost on deciding, are we going to be open for Labor Day weekend? Are we going to be closed? Because, we had one recently that said we are closed all holiday weekends, the whole weekend. And then we have another dean come in that says, nope, the library's still going to be open, even though, there's no class. So it's not the exact same, but we do still have to like modify things every semester as we go because of administrative changes.
Thank you. Thank you both. I think that's, yeah.